Go live in 1 minute, and we're just waiting on our other commissioners.
I'd like to have them with us.
We are live and just awaiting a quorum.
Good morning. We will be getting started in just a few minutes. Good morning, Commissioner Rogers and Commissioner Willie. We'll wait just a minute for Commissioner Fye to join us. Morning, my name is Pam Treese. I'm Vice Chair of the Washington County Commissioners. I'd like to welcome you to our November 9th board meeting. Clerk Moss, will you make the announcement and take the roll, please?
Certainly, Madam Vice Chair. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is now meeting in its regular session, November 9th, 2021. Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Rogers?
Here.
Commissioner Fye?
Here.
Vice Chair Treese?
Here. I'd like to mention that our chair is on vacation. She may be joining us through this meeting, but she is on vacation as we're speaking. So with that, let's turn to public communication. Clerk Moss, is anyone signed up to provide comments?
Yes, we do, Madam Vice Chair. We have Brandon Phillips. Brandon, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead for up to 2 minutes.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. On November 18th, a hearing officer will review a land use variance for a Chevron adjacent Rock Creek wetlands and Bethany Lake at 185th and West Union. This application proposes storing 52,000 gallons of petroleum 80 feet from public wetlands, and approving this application carries significant environmental and economic risks. This board can protect the county from these risks. In fact, this board is the only group able to do something about it. The EPA and DEQ do not regulate the location of underground storage tanks. Clean Water Services doesn't. It's the code responsibility, and other municipalities have already taken a lead on this issue. The environmental risks. According to the Oregon DEQ, in the last 12 months, 3% of the roughly 1,700 regulated underground storage tank sites across the state have leaked. Their data shows leaks originating from tanks, pipes, dispensers, and delivery mistakes. These leaks end up in soil and water. At a 3% yearly failure rate, it isn't a question of if, but when. The economic risks. Every level of government is investing in infrastructure to reduce passenger vehicle fuel consumption, and electric vehicles will put service stations out of business. Washington County has recent experience foreclosing and managing an abandoned service station at 1874 Southwest Baseline. The station was foreclosed in 2014, failed to be sold in auction, and DEQ won't close the leaking underground storage tank file until the costly process of removing the old tanks is completed. This site is a peek into the future of our county if our codes aren't updated. Lost tax revenue, ongoing county management burden, and costly cleanups. I like a call to action of this board. The Board of Commissioners must begin to strengthen our zoning and codes for service station setbacks. I put together land use resources at postpump.org and have started to have discussions with commissioners and with land use commission. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. And Vice Chair Treese, that is all that is signed up for this morning.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Phillips, for your comments. Today's consent agenda contains the following issues. We have one item from Clean Water Services 5 items from Land Use and Transportation, 1 item from Health and Human Services, and 1 item from Support Services. Commissioners, are there any changes you would like to make to the consent agenda? If not, please entertain. We have a motion from Commissioner Rogers and a second from Commissioner Willie. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The consent agenda passes unanimously. At this time, I'd like to move to our public hearings. The first public hearing we have today is on Ordinance 879. I'd like a motion and a second to read the ordinance by title only. Thank you for the motion, Commissioner Rogers, and the second by Commissioner Willie. All those in favor? Thank you. County Council.
Ordinance 879, an ordinance amending the Washington County Tigard Urban Planning Area Agreement, an element of the Washington County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Do we have a staff report?
We do, Madam Chair. Michelle Miller, Senior Planner, will give the presentation on this ordinance.
Good morning, Vice Chair Treese and Commissioners. I'm Michelle Miller, Senior Planner in Community Planning within Land Use and Transportation Division. I'm here to present the staff report for Ordinance number 879, Amendments to the County Tigard Urban Planning Area Agreement. Next slide. As some of the commissioners are aware, we've been updating our urban planning area agreements, or UPAAs, with the cities in the county over the past few years. These agreements serve as the basis for intergovernmental coordination regarding planning in the urban area. They help fulfill statewide Planning Goal 2, which requires this coordination and consistency between local, city, and county land use comprehensive plans, and also with our regional plans. In 1983, the county entered into individual UPAAs with cities in the county. The adopted UPAAs are an element of our comprehensive plan. Each agreement includes a map that shows the city's unique urban planning area or area of interest and lays out policies for coordinating comprehensive planning and development within these planning areas to be compliant with state goals and our laws. For the most part, the coordination includes involving each other in comprehensive planning and notification on development projects within the mapped urban planning area. It also gives authority to plan within the designated urban planning area so that the city can prepare for eventual annexation. There are a lot of standard provisions among the UPAAs, though each city has unique circumstances that require individual agreements. Updates to the city's UPAA may be needed when the UGB expands or annexations occur over time. Thus, it's important to keep them up to date. Next slide. Today, we're here with the UPAA between the City of Tigard and the county. The City of Tigard is shown in light yellow on this map and is located between Beaverton to the north and Tualatin to the south. Next slide. Tigard's UPAA was first adopted in 1983 with several updates during the 1980s. The last update for Tigard occurred in 2003 and included additions to the regional urban growth boundary, annexations since the 1988 UPA update, and special provisions for Murray Boulevard extension. Next slide. Since the last update in 2003, Tigard has added River Terrace to its city boundary. River Terrace is outlined in green on this map and is located along Roy Rogers Road between Shoals Ferry and Beef Bend. Per Metro UGB expansion timeline map, most of River Terrace expansion was approved by Metro in 2003 and a portion in 2011, and confirmed with the Grand Bargain legislation in 2014. Next slide. Since 2003, several regional planning related events have created the need to revise most UPAAs. The Urbanization Forum took place in 2009. It brought together the cities in Washington County to agree that all future UGB expansion areas would be governed and urbanized by a city rather than unincorporated Washington County. The main thing that's changed for the need to revise most UPAAs is the advent of the urban and rural reserve lands. The Oregon legislature validated the urban and rural reserves for Washington County in 2011 and ultimately confirmed by the Grand Bargain in 2014, with the county adding this designation to our maps in 2017. This map shows the urban reserve areas identified in blue and the rural reserves are identified in green, with the regional urban growth boundary outlined in red. Most recently, Tigard has initiated concept planning for the identified urban reserve area, River Terrace West, located on the western edge of Tigard, with the yellow areas pointing to that area on this map. Later this year, Tigard plans to ask Metro to expand the urban growth boundary to include River Terrace West so that Tigard can be more detailed, comprehensive planning for this area. Next slide. The county and city of Tigard staff worked together to make the necessary changes to the UPAA and Exhibit A, the map before you today. In August, Tigard City Council acknowledged this update and confirmed their support for the changes. This map is a zoomed-in version of Western Tigard, which identifies and highlights some of the changes included with this update. The gray areas shown on this map is Tigard City's boundary. UPA Area A, shown on this map, are the urban unincorporated areas where the county has planning and development review authority and where the city has an interest in providing the long-term services for the area. The key provisions included with this UPA update include a new section for concept planning in the urban reserve areas that define the planning roles and coordination responsibilities for concept planning, the River Terrace West, the urban reserve area, shown on the slide with the yellow arrows pointing to this area. In response to Commissioner Rogers' comment at the work session earlier regarding Tile Flat Road, I want to confirm that there are 3 special policies in the UPAA that affirm the city and county agree that Tile Flat Road will be extended through River Terrace West to the ultimate connection at Roy Rogers Road, and that the city and county will continue to coordinate on the road's ultimate design and alignment. And these provisions can be found on page 11, section 4D of the UPAA. The changes address Metro's requirements for planning for new areas under Title 11 and are identified and described in the compliance expectations for these UGB expansion areas. And lastly, the Tigard planning area map is amended to add the urban reserves and all the other map updates. Next slide. So here is the 2021 UPAA map, Exhibit A, showing the Tigard area. Next slide. So changes to the UPAA made through Ordinance number 879 comply with statewide planning goals, Metro Title 11 and 14 of the Urban Growth Management Functional Plan, and our comprehensive plan policies. Notification and public hearings occurred as required by state and local regulations, and the amendments are consistent with state law, statewide planning goals, particularly Goal 3 and 4, agricultural and forest lands, and Goal 14, urbanization. Amendments are consistent with existing plan policies. Next slide. At this time, the request is that you conduct the public hearing and recommend approval of 879 amendments to the County Tigard UPAA. By a separate action, adopt associated findings by resolution and order. Next slide. And that ends my presentation today.
Thank you, Ms. Miller, for the excellent presentation. We appreciate it. Thank you for responding to some of our commission comments. At this time, I'd like to ask if any commissioners have questions or comments that they would like to make. Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Again, I simply remark that Michelle, you did a good job of pointing them out. I have no doubt that everybody's going to coordinate. I've been a huge supporter of the UPAAs and have encouraged every city to update theirs with the county. I think that's really where the future needs to be. In this particular case, you have a county facility, in fact, 3 of them being impacted. One in the future, and that's a tile flat that I think is a critical element of our transportation system. In chatting with some electeds at the city, I think they see it more futuristic than I see it. I think once this process starts moving, I think it's going to move fast. You got a major high school right there at Roy Rogers, what used to be 175th. You've got a lot of amenities that are going to occur, and I think that we need to be very diligent in making certain that the complete system of streets needs to be developed. So, am I in favor of this? Yes. I would like our good partners, neighbors, and Tigard to be very firm in their commitment to work, not just to have conversation with us and be a party to it, but to be an active participant, hopefully with some money as well as this process goes on, to connect Tile Flat down to Roy Rogers, to make a complete system. It's the only way this area is going to work. And I don't want this to all of a sudden see 5 years from now, I'm not going to be here, but you would have some future commission that's saying we're dealing with a major traffic issue in that corridor. So I've made my comments. I think it's on the record. And so hopefully that's what will transpire in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. Are there other comments? And I would like to welcome the chair to this meeting. She is on vacation, but she is attending remotely. Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Vice Chair Treese. I'm sorry I was late. I was working on a county email and lost track of time. I just want to thank our staff as well as that of the City of Tigard for helping ensure that we had advanced briefings and that any questions that I know I had were taken care of ahead of time. So I feel very well briefed on all of this, and I appreciate that effort. Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments? All right, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing and ask Clerk Moss if anyone has signed up to speak.
We have no one signed up, Madam Vice Chair, but would any members of the public wish to provide testimony on Ordinance 879, please utilize the raise your hand function. Not seeing any hands, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing and ask for a motion to adopt Ordinance 879. Thank you, Commissioner Rogers, for the motion and the second from Chair Harrington. Clerk Moss, would you please call the roll?
Yes, I can, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Willie.
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers.
Aye.
Commissioner Fye.
Aye.
Chair Harrington.
Yes.
Vice Chair Treese. Okay.
Thank you for the unanimous vote. Appreciate that. And at this point, I'd like to take a motion to accept the findings for 879.
I'll second Commissioner Rogers' motion.
Great, thank you. So we have a motion from Commissioner Rogers and a second from Chair Harrington. Please indicate if you would accept this motion by raising your hand. Great, passes unanimously. The findings pass unanimously. With that, I would like to close this public hearing and move. Is there anything more that I need to do, Chair? No, okay. Close the public hearing. And now I would like to move to our second public hearing of this morning. And that is to consider the resolution in order to approve an intergovernmental agreement with Yamhill County for refinancing of Yamhill County bonds. Mr. Carr, would you please present the staff report?
Sure, I'll be very brief. These are bonds that were issued by Yamhill County to assist George Fox University with some renovation. I believe this is actually a refinancing. A portion of the project is in Washington County. Under federal law, there has to be a hearing in the place where the bonds are issued for comment on the use of tax-exempt bonds for the purpose. So you had one of these hearings last week. It's called a TEFRA hearing for a county project. This is not a county project, but a project that is financed by Yamhill County for a portion of a project in Washington County. The IGA that's before you clarifies that Washington County is not obligated for these bonds, that it's not Washington County tax money that they're paying them. They are Yamhill County bonds, and just that a portion of the project happens to be in Washington County.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Are there any questions on the staff report or any comments? Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing and ask the clerk if anyone has signed up to speak.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. No one has signed up to provide comment. Would any member of the public wish to provide testimony on the board concurring with Yamhill County on this bond matter? Not seeing any hands, Madam Vice Chair. And to note, since this was a TEFRA hearing, Michael Schrader from the ORC was to be online, but I do not see him, and we have not received anything for the TEFRA part of that hearing per the federal law on this matter.
Does that mean we have to postpone this vote?
No.
Okay, thank you.
As long as the phone line was held open, and that's the requirement.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Carr. So I'd like to close the public hearing and ask for a motion. I see a motion from Commissioner Willie and a second from Commissioner Rogers. Thank you. Clerk Moss, this just requires an open vote, correct?
Chair, this is just a regular vote.
Okay, great. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you very much. So with that, what I'd like to do is go back to Clerk Moss and ask if there's any public communication for the last portion of our meeting.
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, we have one person signed up, Donald Pierce. Donald, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Please go ahead for up to 5 minutes.
Okay. Greetings, commissioners, Treese, Rogers, Willie, and Chair Harrington. My name is Donald Pierce. I'm a plans examiner for Washington County. And the topic of my testimony is the pending OSHA ETS for mandatory vaccination of employees of companies with 100 or more employees. It's my understanding that Oregon OSHA, prior to adoption, will review and edit as necessary the Department of Labor's, OSHA Emergency Temporary Standard for vaccination and testing. I only have a draft copy. It's all I could find online. It's dated October 4th. In this section, in this copy, in section B, there's a request for comment. And I'm unaware if opportunity for comment is ended on the federal level. I'm really unfamiliar with this process, but I assume that county commissioners will be solicited for their input on the state level. And so I'm using this opportunity to testify to provide a reasoned perspective. Regardless, in that draft I saw, the questions posed kind of provided an outline for my assertion that people who have recovered from COVID have a natural immunity comparable to the immune response provoked by vaccines. And so yesterday I sent written testimony because I didn't want to, muck up the time with a bunch of scientific studies and try and summarize them for you. But if you have time, you might take a look at it. I like science, I rely on science. And so in summary, I'd like to say that in the section B, the temporary standard states that OSHA determined that workers who have been infected with COVID but have not been fully vaccinated still face a grave danger from workplace exposure. And this is an area of ongoing scientific inquiry. And so according to the OHA's data, 98.8% of those infected survive. Of those 98.8%, how many suffer serious or lethal breakthrough infections? There's absolutely zero data. And I think it's incumbent upon them to justify that those recovered from COVID-19 continue to face a grave danger, because I assert that there is no grave danger. It's minuscule at best. Since the standard hasn't been met by OSHA's own rules, which states that OSHA must determine that workers are in grave danger due to exposure to toxic substances or agents determined to be toxic or physically harmful or new hazards, that an emergency standard is needed to protect them. It's not been met and can't be applied to people that have recovered. The ETSM states just after that, given scientific uncertainty and limitations in testing for infection and immunity, OSHA is concerned that it would be infeasible for employers to operationalize standards that would permit or require an exception from vaccination or testing and face covering based on a prior infection to COVID. So in this sentence, OSHA admits that they lack the scientific data to exclude people recovered from COVID-19 and the ETS mandate. And secondly, OSHA pivots at this point to show concern for how employers will operationalize the standard. And frankly, that's not OSHA's job. These are managerial decisions based upon individual operational needs. Companies and jurisdictions have operationalized PPE and shutdowns for nearly 2 years. And I believe certainly this is outside OSHA's scope of authority. I just wanted to offer some scientific studies since OSHA wasn't able to come up with any. The Lancet in April 17th of 2021 provided a paper that said after 7 months, a previous history of SARS-CoV-2 infection was associated with an 84% lower risk of infection, 84% after 7 months, which is far better than the J&J vaccine. And it's kind of odd that if a person was to go get the J&J vaccine with a lower efficacy, they would be okay, but somebody who has natural immunity at 84% is not. It's just not rational. The available evidence shows that fully vaccinated individuals and those previously infected with SARS each have a low risk of subsequent infection for at least 6 months.
Thank you, Mr.
Pierce.
That was 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce, for your comments. At this time, I would like to ask the board if they have any announcements that they would like to make. At this time, I'd like to make a few board announcements. Our Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, November 16th and Tuesday, November 23rd are both canceled. We have AOC meetings, Association of Oregon Counties, and the week of Thanksgiving, we're not holding a board meeting. As a member of the board, I'd like to wish all of you a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. In December, we will be holding a board meeting on Tuesday, November 30th. I also skipped the November 29th joint meeting with Multnomah and Clackamas County Commissioners, and this is for the appointment for Senate District 18. That will be at 3 p.m. on Monday, November 29th. On Tuesday, November 30th, we will have a work session that starts at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and the board meeting that starts at 6:30. On Thursday, December 2nd, we have a roundtable at 1 p.m. and we will be holding a Board of Commissioners town hall that evening at 6 p.m. On Tuesday, December 7th, we have a work session at 8:30 and a regular board meeting at 10 a.m. And again, on the 14th, we have a work session in the afternoon at 2 p.m. and the board meeting at 6:30. That will conclude the board meetings and the work sessions for the month of December. So with that, if there are no other announcements, I would like to ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, Chair. And second from Commissioner Willie. The meeting is adjourned, but I would like to ask Ms. Todd, vote. Yes, please vote